Thursday, October 13th. I'm Tony T, our college football pick show here for Thursday. Well, features, and this is actually a week number 7, part 4. In part 4, we feature another 9 picks. So we'll get through all 51 games for you here in 6 parts. So before we get these 9 games to you, just a couple things. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NFL. We also have Major League Baseball, NBA coming up. We have hockey as well now. So it's a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, remember our podcast, Tony's Picks. Every pick in podcast form. You check us out at all the major platforms. Search Tony's Picks on podcast. Every pick in podcast form. I want to remind you about our promo code. You can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use the promo code TonyT at checkout, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab and get signed up. Also, love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. And don't forget to visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the link to the hot cappers, get signed up. Cappers like Ramon, who's been on absolute fire here. We've got Daniel, who's been hot. Also, we've got Collins as well. We'll kind of look at some of the sports up there. We'll look at college football here, and we'll see that Collins here leads the way here. Hollywood Sam's doing well. Mindy's been on fire. Click the links, guys. Get signed up to a long-term pass. And, of course, you'll find our premium picks here in the center of the page. Of course, our best bets. Each capper can choose one best per sport per day on the card. You can see many of them have them up there as well. Our $15 premium pick. Each capper can designate one of their premium picks as a $15 pick just to showcase their service. You see many of them have those up there, and many of them as well will post their best bet as a $15 premium pick just to showcase their service. Great value here with the 3-packs. Check out our 3-packs here. I know that's a really good seller, so you got plenty of opportunities there to check those out as well. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Temple versus UCF college football pick. This one goes off here on Thursday. Temple 2-3 after their 24-3 road defeat at Memphis. Really a poor offensive showing for the Owls. They gained just 297 yards in the game. They ran for just 52 on 32 carries. On defense, Temple held the Tigers to 195 passing yards on 45 attempts and limited the run game. E.J. Warner, a season-low 48% completion rate in the loss, 3 picks and 6.6 yards per attempt. The freshman on the season at 56% completion rate, 7.3 yards per attempt. UCF improved to 4-1 after their 41-19 home win to SMU. Knights had a really strong offensive showing, 494 yards in the game, 160 of it rushing on 40 carries. They did limit the Mustangs' ground attack and surrendered 363 yards passing on 54 attempts. John Plumlee completed 69% of his passes with a season-high 10.9 yards per attempt. Season-wide, Plumlee, 61% completions, 7.8 yards per attempt. The Owls' road form has been poor, held to 3 points at Memphis and shutout at Duke, gaining here an average of 238 yards per game. UCF defense has held opponents to 20 or fewer points in all games played. Here will be Temple and UCF under 46. Baylor versus West Virginia college football pick. This one goes off here on Thursday. Baylor 3-2 after their 36-25 home defeat to Oklahoma State. Bears did move the ball for 457 yards, but only 112 on the ground on 30 carries. Special teams did surrender a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. They held the Cowboys to 379 yards with 166 rushing on 46 carries. Blake Shapen completed 70% of his passes, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks with 8.6 yards per attempt. Now against the Big 12, Shapen 71% completion rate, 8.8 yards per attempt. West Virginia fell to 2-3 after their 38-20 road defeat at Texas. Mountaineers offense held to 314 yards with only 61 on the ground on 30 attempts. Defensively, the Mountaineers limited the Longhorns on the ground but allowed 336 yards passing on 28 attempts. JT Daniels completed 60% of his passes in defeat with a season-low 5.3 yards per attempt. On the year, Daniels' 63% completion rate, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks, 6.7 yards per attempt. Mountaineers' offense production strong in their overtime home loss at Kansas. They did struggle against the running style quarterback for Kansas. Shapen, not much of a runner here. The play here will be West Virginia here at plus the 3.5. James Madison versus Georgia Southern college football pick Saturday. James Madison 5-0 after their 42-20 road win at Arkansas State. Dukes moved the football for 598 yards in victory. They ran it 43 times for 204 yards. On defense, they limited the Red Wolves to just 267 yards, 20 of it rushing on 27 carries. Todd Centeio, season highs here, nearly 76% completion rate, 10.6 yards per attempt, passing for 384 yards in victory. On the season, Centeio, 66% completions, 15 touchdowns, a pick, 9.3 yards per attempt. Georgia Southern 3-3 after their 41-33 road defeat at Georgia State. Eagles moved the football for 451 yards, running for only 92 on 28 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 521 yards to the Panthers with 335 rushing on 54 carries. 5 turnovers for the Eagles. Now, Buffalo transfer quarterback Kyle Ventrese completed 61% of his passes in the loss, 3 touchdowns, but 4 picks, 7.3 yards per attempt. On the season, Ventrese, about 61% completion rate, 13 touchdowns, 11 picks, 6.8 yards per attempt. Now, Duke's defense holding teams at 227 yards. Eagles' defense here surrendering 456 yards, 5.6 yards per rush here. So the player will be James Madison here at minus the 11.5. Wisconsin versus a Michigan State college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Wisconsin moved to 3-3 after their 42-7 road win at Northwestern. Badgers moved the football for 415 yards, running for 193 on 38 carries. They did limit the Wildcats' run offense to 79 yards on 27 carries. Graham Mertz completed 69% of his passes for the season high, 299 yards, 5 touchdowns. He averaged 10.3 yards per attempt. In Big Ten play, Mertz is completing 59% of his passes, 7.4 yards per attempt. Now, Michigan State fell to 2-4 after their 49-20 home defeat to Ohio State. A season low 202 yards in defeat for the Spartans with 7 yards rushing on 20 carries. On defense, the Spartans were just absolutely torched, giving up 614 yards total, 377 passing on 28 attempts. Peyton Thorne did complete 61% of his passes for 6.3 yards per attempt. In conference, Thorne is completing 64% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, and only 5.4 yards per attempt. Badgers defense in the better form, and Mertz showing improvement in the passing game to exploit the Spartans' poor pass defense. Player will be Wisconsin here at minus the 7.5. Tulane versus USF college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Tulane 5-1 after their 24-9 home win to East Carolina. Green Wave moved the football for 391 yards, only 41 rushing on 32 carries. On defense, Tulane allowed just 280 yards passing, but on 52 pass attempts, they did pick off 2 passes. Michael Pratt in the win, 79% completion for a season high, 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 9.6 yards per pass attempt. On the season, Pratt a career high, 67.7% completions, 9.5 yards per attempt. USF 1-5 after their 28-24 road defeat at Cincinnati. Bulls did move the football for 363 yards. They ran the ball well against the Bearcats with 224 yards on 43 carries. Defensively, they did surrender 221 rushing yards on 37 carries. Baylor transfer quarterback Gary Bohannon completed only 52% of his passes, 6.6 yards per attempt, but got 2 touchdowns. On the year, a 55% completion rate, 6.3 yards per attempt. Bohannon has shown improvement when facing AAC competition. Tulane not generating a lot of points in their games of late. Bulls are running for 5.2 yards. A carry play here will be on USF at plus 12. Louisiana Tech versus North Texas college football pick for Saturday. Louisiana Tech improved to 2-3 after their 41-31 home win to UTEP. Bulldogs gained 380 yards with pedestrian 114 rushing yards on 33 carries. Defensively, they did surrender 501 yards to UTEP with 320 passing on 51 carries. Parker McNeil, a season-high 67% completions in the win, 4 touchdowns, 9.9 yards per attempt. On the year, McNeil, 57% completions, 8.5 yards per attempt. North Texas 3-3 after their 45-28 home win to FAU. Another strong offensive performance here for the Mean Green. 481 yards total, 300 rushing on 51 carries. Defensively, they limited the Owls' run game and surrendered 295 passing yardage on 50 attempts. Austin Ani, a career-high 70% completions in the win, 9 yards per attempt. Now, season-wide, Ani, just 56% completions, 15 touchdowns, 7 picks, but 8.5 yards per attempt. Now, these are two defenses struggling to stop the run. This opens up things for both teams to excel in the passing game. The play here will be Louisiana Tech and North Texas over 68. Arizona versus Washington, college football pick Saturday. Arizona drops to 3-3 after their 49-22 home defeat to Oregon. Wildcats defense was absolutely torched here. 560 yards allowed, 306 rushing on 41 carries, and they also allowed 274 passing yards on 29 attempts. Wildcats had a negative turnover margin of -3. Jaden DeLaura hit a conference low 57% of his passes, 5.7 yards per attempt. Now against the Pac-12, DeLaura, 63% completion rate, 8.5 yards per attempt. Washington fell to 4-2 with their 45-38 road defeat at Arizona State. Huskies finished with 458 yards in the game, 134 rushing on 33 carries. On defense, they allowed 5 yards a carry on the ground, plus 241 passing yards on 30 attempts. Indiana transfer quarterback Michael Penix did complete 62% of his passes with a pick and a season-low 5.9 yards per attempt. His interception was returned for an ASU touchdown. Now in Pac-12 play, Penix 63% completions, 7 yards per pass attempt. Against the Pac-12, the Wildcats averaging 528 yards a game and the defense giving up 506. Huskies in conference throwing for 326 yards a game and giving up 422 yards with 282 passing for 9.5 yards per attempt. Play here will be on Arizona, Washington to go over a total of 73. Rice versus FAU college football pick. This one goes off here on Saturday. Rice, they're 3-2 after their 28-24 home win to UAB. Owls win despite a season-low 209 yards. The team ran for 105 yards on 36 carries. On defense, they limited the Blazers to only 3 yards a carry on the ground and returned a fumble 4 yards for a touchdown. TJ McMahon completed 65% of his passes in the win with a touchdown, but 6.1 yards per attempt. FAU 2-4 with their 45-28 road win at North Texas. Owls finished with 432 yards rushing. 432 yards. They ran the ball for 137 yards and 29 carries. Defensively, though, FAU gave up 481 yards to the Mean Green, 300 yards rushing on 51 carries. N'Kosi Perry did complete only 52% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 5.9 yards per attempt. On the season, Perry is completing 57%, 7.4 yards per attempt. Now, FAU's offensive production, the key here, the Rice Owls surrendering 5.5 yards a carry on the ground to opponents, and FAU running for 5.1 per attempt. And also, Perry is a difference here. The player will be FAU at -3.5. LSU versus Florida college football pick Saturday. LSU fell to 4-2 after their 40-13 home defeat to Tennessee. Tigers defense torched on the ground, giving up 263 yards on 49 carries. The LSU run game sputtered with 55 yards on 28 carries. Jane Daniels completed 71% of his passes, 6.7 yards per attempt. On the season, the Arizona State transfer completing 69% of his passes with 6.9 yards per attempt. Florida, they're now 4-2 after a 24-17 home win to Missouri. Gators held to only 297 yards offensively, but the run game produced 231 yards on 32 carries. Defensively, they limited the Tigers to under 4 yards a carry with 200 passing yards allowed in that one on 30 attempts. Anthony Richardson completed 57% of his passes in the win for only 66 yards with 4.7 yards per attempt. Richardson on the season, a completion rate just under 56%, 5 touchdowns, 7 picks, 8.2 yards per attempt. Gators' subpar offensive production against Missouri, Kentucky, and USF really the concern. Tigers defense performing better. Florida defense allowing 50% convergence on third down. Play here will be LSU +3. That was our college football pick show here for Thursday, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, set notifications. Visit Tony'sPicks.com for our best bets. And don't forget our podcast, Tony's Picks. Get all our picks here in podcast form. Tony's Picks, the podcast. Search it over on Apple Podcast and more, and if you would.